Oh, let me check.
Okay. Hi, Melissa. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm very excited to talk today. So we met in Gabby Broderick's well, it was no plan B coaching at the time, I think, when we met.
Yes. Yeah, she's had so many programs like these past, like this. I thought that I knew her 2 years, but it's actually been like a year and change. So, but I feel like we've like quantum leaped into our future, into our best lives. But yeah, we met through multiple of her, like multiple workshops. And yeah, it's been amazing just being in her NGN group now.
Yes.
Her next generation group. But yeah, it all started with the idea of starting a podcast, right? I was in another mentoring group, Roots to Rise, with my mentor, Jumake. And I thought I was going to create this group program. And what really birthed out of that was, I'm going to start a podcast. And she had a podcast, my mentor. And I'm like, all right, this seems like a good idea. And that's how I connected with you. And I knew that you were helping women start launching their podcast. So I thought it was going to be free, right? Just Anchor, you just throw your podcast on, throw your recording on there. And then you actually opened my eyes to like, oh, wow, like there's so much editing and so many like little things here and there. So that's why I gravitated to you. And yeah, I'm so grateful for that.
Thank you. So before we get into any further with your podcast, which we're definitely going to be talking about, why don't you just tell us a little bit more about you and your business and Cosmic Roadmap?
Yeah, so I'm an Reiki AstroGeo guide, and little by little, with the podcast, I actually rebranded to Cosmic Roadmap. So it started with the podcast, and now my brand is pretty much housed under Cosmic Roadmap. And Cosmic Roadmap is essentially, because with astrogeography, you're creating this roadmap where it connects you to the stars, it connects you to the planets, and with tangible places on Earth. So that's why I came up with Cosmic Roadmap. And astrogeography is essentially locational astrology. Your planetary energies or your astrological lines are plotted on a world map. And that helps you figure out what energies you're meant to connect with for the rest of your life, based on your birth information. So it's pretty much written in the stars. So that's what I do in a nutshell. And then I weave energetic work as well, because that's where I started. My roots come from a yoga studio where I learned Reiki and Ayurveda, and that's where I found out about astrogeography. And I just didn't know where to go with Reiki and Ayurveda. And the astrogeography was actually really the grounding part, like the puzzle piece that was missing. And I weave that together because I don't want people to really escape. I want them to travel with groundedness, and the energetic work really helps to understand why you want to go to a certain place without escaping your reality. So that's what I do.
Yes, and I got to have one of those AstroGeo sessions, and yeah, all my life, like little bits and pieces of people talking about Australia and all this stuff, and then I go into the session with you, and you're like, yeah, you should really go to Australia.
Right, like all your energy just like,
yeah. I was like, oh, maybe that's why it's been coming up so much. Like it was never a place that I really thought about going to or anything, but now I've been kind of diving into it a little more.
Yeah, and that's why I asked a lot of people, what are the 3 places that have been calling you? And sometimes they don't have particular places. And when I look at the map, that's actually the most fun, when they don't know. And I pinpoint a certain place, they're like, oh my gosh, like you don't know, like I just watched a documentary, or like I know a person from there. So there's always like these deep connections. And that's why I started the podcast, because there was always these synchronicities in my sessions. And I'm like, I should totally turn this into a podcast. So that's where, yeah, little by little, I'm like, I really love just having these conversations over just the energies and the places that people have traveled to.
Yeah, it's really neat hearing everybody's story and how they connect to different places. And yeah, I had never heard of astrogeology until I met you. Like I had never heard what it was or anything. So yeah.
Yeah, and so many people, because I shorten it to AstroGeo, so people will call me astrogeologist, astrogeomancy, and I'm like, yeah, whatever you want. But yeah, it's astrogeography, and it's also astrocartography or locational astrology. They're pretty much equivalent. So
yeah, and I think your podcast really helps open up that world to people who have never heard of it, who feel kind of lost in where they are. Like sometimes home never feels like home.
It's very true. And even for me, like I've been in New Jersey my whole life, and it's technically home, but I never felt grounded enough in this place. And it wasn't until I started traveling that I felt it in people. I felt it in moments, in certain environments. And that's where you start figuring out like, oh wow, there is a certain planetary energy, and that's why I feel the way that I do in a certain place or in a certain culture. Yeah.
Yes. So thank you for opening my eyes to that, because that was a great session that we had. But, so before you even had let me phrase that, before we started the process of getting your podcast out there, did you have any fears about starting it or anything that was kind of holding you back?
Yeah, of course. I am not a public speaker, and you probably relate. And yeah, I would, back in college, I would be the type of person, I would do a presentation, I would like run off to the bathroom and cry because I was filled with so much emotion and anxiety, and I would usually lose my voice. And I still tend to do this even before episodes. And I'm like, hey, like I tell my body, I'm like, it's okay. And I started doing meditations right before with my show, my guests. And that has helped, because I'm almost telling my body like, hey, it's okay. Like we're stepping into this, this place where beautiful stories are going to be exchanged. But I don't think I understood that with my body before. So it's been a beautiful process where I'm not necessarily the public speaker yet that I want to be, but I'm becoming that, right? I'm changing that. And it's all about mindset. Even if you're not a public speaker, things can change, and you can become what you want, like what you see as that highest self.
Yes, because public speaking and recording your podcast in a room all by yourself is very, very different.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not a public speaker. I can relate to the school thing. I failed a project because I refused to get up in front of the class to share it.
Exactly. And that's traumatizing, right? Like how did it change for you? Like how did you finally step into the role of like, okay, I'm going to start recording my own podcast? How did that change for you?
I think it was first age and growth. Just, I feel like when we were in high school, we care a little more about what people think. So I think as I grew, I'm like, you don't like me, I'm okay. Like I'm okay with it now, because I think I like myself more than I did back then. Definitely.
I think when we hit our when we hit our 30s, that's when it's just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. All of a sudden you're like, oh, I don't really care anymore. I don't have time to worry about what other people are thinking of me.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that for everyone listening, yeah, that's a good lesson. Just, yeah, don't worry about what others have to say, because your message and what, the guests that you bring on, that's what's important. And that's how I dove into it, where it's not about me. I'm allowing these beautiful people to come on because I saw something in them. I saw a light in them during our sessions, and that's why I bring them on, because there's something more to just the session that we had. And I know that all of them have a beautiful story to tell. So yeah, I knew it was more than just me, and it was something greater than myself.
Yes. And now you're giving other women that platform to share their stories and use their voice.
Right. Yeah. Men and women. Yes. Yes.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
All genders.
I'm geared more towards women.
All genders.
Yes. Sorry.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about the process of starting your podcast. Were there any frustrations? Were there anything that you thought, oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be?
It's funny because it was right after Christmas, everybody got Omicron. it finally hit me. I came down with it. And probably a week before I was supposed to submit everything to you, because we had some hard deadlines to get it in by, I believe it was like the 10th of January. I was hit with Omicron like the first the first or the second. So I was recovering. Had that nasty cough, and I'm like, how am I going to record anything if I start coughing? So leading up to that, it was nerve-wracking, and I am someone that leaves everything to last minute. And I remember recording that weekend the intro, the outro, the 4 or 5 episodes, and I think the trailer, like all in that weekend. And it was just crazy. And I finally submitted it to you like 11 p.m. the night before our deadline. Like, it's in. But it was really nerve-wracking. But you helped me with like organizing everything, making sure like what I needed. And that helped me, because I would have been all over the place. Like, okay, recording the video, recording the episode, but then what about the trailer and the intro and all that stuff? So you helped me kind of strategize like what to do. And then you picked out the song. That was another thing. I thought I was gonna go all in, like pick out a song that I really wanted, but you picked something perfect. So yeah, I was grateful that you did that.
Oh, well, thank you. Me. Yes. See, my main goal is I want my clients just to be able to share what they need to share, get their message out without worrying about like all the other stuff you have to do to get it out there, submitting it and editing it and all that. Yeah.
And you've also helped me with the graphics as well. I know that that's not like your strong point, but that's helped me as well. Like, just knowing what to have, like the stories and the the IG post, because that would be another thing that I would be like a whole week spending, like, ooh, like what graphics do I use for this? So you just kind of narrowed it down for me, like, okay, this is all I need. All right. And moving on. And I've used, your graphics in a creative way. Like, I keep on, I keep using them in different ways on the feeds and the reels. So yeah.
Yes. I love what you've been doing. Yes. Because I'm not the most creative with graphics. I will admit that's definitely not my strong point.
At least, if you give me a starting point, then I can like move on and like add to it, add more flair.
Yes. So I know that probably by the time this podcast airs, you might be done with your job, your full-time job.
Yeah. So what was it, May 27th was that end point for me. I am leaving June 3rd, finishing out the pay period, but yeah, that I finally spoke to my boss, and I'm in the midst of just saying my goodbyes and closing things out, and just all the loose ends, making sure that everything is good to go. For 13 years, right? I've been in my career for 13 years, so it's just it's a weird space to be in, to finally say goodbye and cut ties. Because I was considering like maybe I should do a sabbatical, but I'm like, no, you're done. Like, you are done. Like, just move on. Don't make it like wishy-washy, because the universe, does see you as like, hey, like, are you really
sure that you're doing this?
Sure? Exactly. So just talking to my coworkers and my supervisors, I was met with a lot of congratulations, which was very strange. I was like, whoa. Which just solidified that I'm on the right path, because people aren't happy where they're at. And I'm moving on to, to bigger and better things, and not in the typical career that I was supposed to be, that I was groomed for. So yeah, I'm happy to be moving on and traveling, becoming the digital nomad that I've been hoping for.
Yes, I'm really excited for you, because when I had the same. I worked in a legal department in the hospital for 14 years, and I was like, I just knew, I'm done. And I got the same thing. Congratulations! Like, you're so lucky you get to get out. I'm like, well,
I know, it's like you finally escaped. I know, you're escaping the matrix.
Yes. So I'm excited to follow your adventures as a digital nomad. Hopefully you'll be posting a lot on IG.
I know. Because the last time that I traveled, I went to Egypt, and that was kind of it was a very more of a spiritual, like, yeah, retreat for me. So I didn't post too much, but yeah, moving on. I'll start in Europe, so in Spain, and we'll see like where that takes me. And everybody's like, "What are you going to be doing in June or July?" I'm like, "I'm not sure." So we'll be bouncing around and seeing what comes up, and just connecting with my astro line. So my really following my astro maps, and in Spain I have Venus energy, so connecting with more of that sense of community, with love, and then moving on to Bali in August. So Bali is going to be a retreat. I'm celebrating my sister's birthday there, so she always wanted to go to Bali, never had a chance, and like actually sent me money to save because she didn't want to tap into that money. She's like, "Here, I'll send you the money, so whenever like we have that chance to go to Bali." And I called her, and it's actually one of my past clients that was doing the retreat. I'm like, "Hey, do you want to go for your birthday?" And she's like, "All right, well, let me see if I can take off." So she was able to take off the time, and I knew that I was already going to be like out of work, so that's what we're going to do. And I'll probably stay there for, I don't know, 2 months, 3 months, who knows, because I know the max is 3 months in Indonesia, until I have to go to somewhere else to do my visa run, which will probably be with my family in Malaysia. So I'll probably bounce up to Malaysia. Yeah, so it'll be fun, but it's all open-ended because at this point I don't have a timeline, right? I'm running
Just
on my
nice.
own time. Yeah, like I'll stay as long as I need to. Bali is going to be special because there's so many digital nomads there. So I'm always joking around that I'll have a co-working space, like what is it, like a cat co-working space? Yeah, so I'll be in co-working spaces there, meeting other digital nomads, and possibly collaborating with them there. So I just see a huge collaboration opportunity there. So
that's going to be amazing. And your trip with your sister is going to be, I've always wanted to go to Bali too, so I'm jealous.
The opportunity's still open.
Yes, I know. Yep. Yes. And it's great that you'll be able, podcasting you can do anywhere.
What's interesting in Bali, in those co-working spaces, they have podcast rooms.
Oh, really?
That's
awesome.
Yeah, like what is it? The sound, the
the
noise
sound
canceling,
soundproofing room.
the soundproof room, and yeah, it was. my partner's like, "You probably won't want to leave."
Yeah, you spend all day in there.
Exactly. So yeah, so I'm excited to see that and experience that. So yeah, because that was another thing. I don't know how I'll be recording, with nature noises, with with just whatever is happening in the city that I'm going to be in. I just had an episode with someone that's based in Brazil. Like she's also a digital nomad, but it was in Ecuador and now is in Brazil. And she's like, "Yeah, I think we're gonna have to like record like late at night." I'm like, "That's fine. We'll work it out because there's construction noise, so you have to work around a lot of these things." So I may be recording late at night. Depending on where I'm at. So yeah,
but we make it work.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I have a few little like fun questions I just ask all of my guests. So do you have like a favorite mindset book or book in general?
Mindset book. Well, I do follow Mind Valley. So a Vision Lakiani. He has, I believe it's like The Buddha and the Badass. I haven't actually read the book itself. I've read like snippets of it, but he has amazing stuff. And The Extraordinary Mind, I believe that's his other book. So yeah, anything from him is always amazing and always resonates. Yeah.
Oh, I've never heard of him. I'll have to check those out.
Yeah.
Do you have, besides your own, a favorite podcast?
A favorite podcast. So I used to listen to Where Do We Begin with Esther Perel, which were therapy sessions. So that's kind of where it started. The idea of a podcast started because it was just recorded therapy sessions, no questions, no nothing. You're pretty much a fly on the wall, like listening in. So that's essentially what my what my podcast episodes are all about. It's just a conversation, right? Like a free flowing conversation. So that was one of the first ones. Lewis Howes, and then Tom Bilyeu. I think it's impact theory. I forget if I believe it was impact theory. Yeah, those three. And then Jay Shetty.
Oh, I love Jay Shetty. I just read his book.
Yeah,
was it Think Like a Monk?
Yep, I have that book as well. So yeah, another great book. Yep.
Yes. I haven't listened to his podcast yet. I should put that on my list because I love the book.
I don't listen to his podcast, but I actually listened to a few of his interviews with Tom Bilyeu and also Lewis Howes. So that was kind of like where I stepped into the podcast world, because I didn't listen to many podcasts at the beginning. So yeah, those are the top ones.
Yes. Yeah. Once you step into the podcast world, you're like, oh, I want to listen to this one and this one and this one. And then my list is like so long now. I'm like,
exactly.
I should probably go through it. So thank you so much for being on today. This was such a great conversation. So
thank you.
Yeah. Can you tell our listeners how they can connect more with you and follow your adventures?
Yeah. You can follow me on Instagram at Melissa Lambour, or Cosmic Roadmap for my podcast, and my website, which is cosmicroadmap.com.
Yes. And go listen to her podcast too.
Yes, Cosmic Roadmap.
Yes, I enjoy listening every week and hearing all the stories. So thank you again.
Thank you, Jillian.
Yes, I'll talk to you soon, probably.
All right, awesome.